I know, just keeps getting bigger. Guys, I spent this past weekend celebrating one of my friends turning 40. I woke up that morning in the Airbnb with another group of friends that we all flew in for her birthday, and I realized how full I felt. We weren't accomplishing anything. We weren't strategizing. We weren't building a business. We weren't having some big vision meeting. Nobody needed me to produce anything. I just got to laugh and to enjoy the people that I love. I got to be present and free from all of the other things that I carry just for a minute. And I woke up with this overwhelming sense of gratitude. I remember getting up and going downstairs with my Bible, and I was just sitting outside, and I just was like, thank you, Lord, that I get to wake up to a group of women and their families in this household that love me, that I get to love on them. And God, just thank you for these women. Thank you for friendship. Thank you for sisterhood. Thank you for people who I don't always have to perform a role with. And it made me think about the season that we're in, this create season. Because when we talk about creating, we usually just talk about vision or creating strategy or execution, resources, money, systems. But I think there's a cheat code that we don't talk about nearly enough. The cheat code of sisterhood. Is this thing on? Hey sis, welcome back to Come Sis With Me, the podcast. I'm Mia, your wellness architect. Every week we gather for real conversations, biblical wisdom, and practical tools to help us align, release, create, and sustain a life we actually want to live. Honestly, this podcast is a little like my personal journal that I get to read aloud to my sisters in the world each week. But hey, come for the stories and strategies, stay for the sisterhood. Let's get into it. Here's something I'm learning. You have to staff your life well. And I don't only mean that professionally. We understand staffing when it comes to organizations. But if you're building something, eventually you recognize I cannot occupy every position. Ask me how I know. I need someone who does finances. I need someone who knows legal. I need someone who understands operations, who can communicate in ways that I can't. And I need someone who sees what I don't see. But somehow, when it comes to our personal lives, especially as women, we wear all of these hats, and we can wear doing everything alone as like this badge of honor. And I don't think that's wisdom. And if you're going to build well, you have to be supported well. Your life needs relational infrastructure, not just people who can help you accomplish your vision. That's good. But you need people who can sustain you while you're carrying the vision. I'm getting goosebumps. That's different, because everybody on your team doesn't need access to your heart. Everybody on your team probably doesn't even have access to your heart. And everybody with access to your heart doesn't need a position on your team. But you do need both. Whenever we talk about sisterhood, I hear women say, I don't have friends. And I understand that statement, but I also don't. Because I want to lovingly challenge you in that. Because there's so many different things underneath of it. Before you decide that you don't have sisterhood, maybe the first prayer is, God, show me what's already in front of me. Because sometimes you don't lack a thing, you just lack the eyes to recognize the thing. There may already be women around you who could become part of your community, but they don't look like the friendship that you imagined. Maybe she's older, maybe she's younger, maybe this woman is married or doesn't have kids and you do, and you guys don't get to talk every day, or you don't get to talk at least about the things that you think you have in common. And maybe she isn't going to be your bestie, and y'all not going to go on vacation together and have matching pajamas in a group chat name. Yes, that has happened in my friend group. Shout out to Marsha. But could it still be sisterhood? Question mark, right? Because could God have already placed something in your life that you haven't learned to recognize yet? And it's causing you to miss it because you can't see it. Then I think there's another prayer that we could pray as women, and it's, God, give me the courage to seek what I need. Because maybe you recognize that the desire, but vulnerability scares you. Maybe you've been hurt before, or initiating any type of relationship feels awkward, and you don't know how to move from acquaintance to relationship. So prayer could become your courage strategy. And then there's another prayer that I think we also overlook, and it's, God, help my heart desire godly sisterhood. Because if y'all tell the truth, some of y'all don't know that you need it. You think you're doing so good in life without it. You have become so accustomed to doing life independently that isolation stops feeling like something is missing. You learn how to handle things all by yourself. You learn how to celebrate yourself, comfort yourself, make decisions all by yourself. You travel alone, which is great. Love that for you. You build by yourself. You have even learned how to pick yourself back up. And eventually you can become so capable of doing life alone that you just stop recognizing that companionship is actually a need until you experience it. Until you're sitting at a table with women, or waking up in an Airbnb with women and their family surrounded around you, and nobody wants anything from you. They're just excited to have you around. They're laughing with you. You're laughing together so hard that your stomach hurts. You don't recognize you need it until somebody knows something is wrong with you without you having to announce it. Ooh. They're like, I ain't like the way you answered that text message. You good? I don't like the way your face looks right now. What's going on? You don't know you need it until another woman celebrates your wins without making it about her. Sometimes we need like loving correction, and you don't even realize it, that she's not trying to diminish you, that she actually loves you. Man, that's the best feeling in the world. Until you're surrounded by healthy women and something inside you says, wait, I've been missing this, you won't even know that you're missing it. Sometimes exposure awakens the desire too. You get a taste of healthy sisterhood, and suddenly you realize that what you previously called independence may have also contained some isolation. It may have been some survival tactics that you unknowingly put on yourself because of trauma from previous relationships, or just even experiences that you've seen in the past that had nothing to do with you. So maybe your prayer isn't even like, God, send me friends. Maybe it's, God, teach my heart to desire the kind of community that you designed for me. Show me where I made isolation comfortable. Show me where I've confused self-sufficiency with wholeness. Ask God to give you an appetite for a healthy, godly sisterhood. And then once that desire begins to emerge, I think you can add another prayer to this. So this is a lot of prayers on your prayer list, sis. But you can then add the prayer that, God, teach me how to ask for what I desire. Because community rarely just happens. Community usually you have to risk something. You got to risk vulnerability. You got to cost you something. Someone got to text first. Somebody has to say, hey, I really enjoy being around you. Do you want to get coffee? There needs to be an initiation, a willingness to be known. So maybe the 4 prayers for your sisterhood can be those things that I just gave you. And because you can't intentionally build what you don't yet recognize as valuable, those prayers need to be something that you think about with your whole heart. And sometimes God doesn't begin by giving you an entire community too. Let me just say, like, after you pray these prayers, don't think you're automatically just going to be surrounded by people. Sometimes he just gives you a taste. Just enough healthy sisterhood for you to realize, oh, this is something I actually need in my life. And then there's another possibility that is harder to confront. Maybe you have had access to sisterhood, but you haven't developed the heart or the skills necessary to sustain it. Because finding friends and being a friend are 2 different things. Sometimes we're praying, God, send me my people. And God's saying, can I teach you how to love them first? Can I teach you how to celebrate other women when they're winning? And tell them the truth without being cruel or unkind, or you need to learn how to receive correction without immediately calling it jealousy or haters. Do you know how to apologize? Can you make room for somebody else's season? Can you honor confidentiality? Can you be inconvenienced? I mean, these are all things that come with healthy sisterhood. But yet some of us don't have a heart or the skills necessary to really understand that this is actually good for me. I can allow a woman to know the real me instead of this polished version, and that be comfortable enough. But here's the uncomfortable truth. To have sisters, you have to learn how to be one. You gotta be it. And I want to be clear about what I'm advocating for, because I'm not saying every woman needs a group of 10 best friends. I'm not even talking about besties here. I'm talking about having women in your life who can love you well. Healthy sisterhood should have some characteristics. It should be, one, safe, right? I don't have to wonder whether my vulnerability will be tomorrow's conversation or that it will be used against me in the future. 2, it should be healthy. We aren't bonded exclusively through trauma and gossip and dysfunction and mutual enemies. Like, we actually have a healthy relation to one another. 3, it should be uplifting, in my opinion. Not fake hype. Like, this is genuine encouragement that comes from just being in community with one another. Girl, you did that, right? And so your group chat can't consistently be about, oh, my prayer request is for all of these detrimental things in my life. Like, there should be some celebration on your end. You should be willing to share your wins with people so that your people can genuinely encourage you and then lift you up and celebrate you. I also think sisterhood should be corrective. A sister who loves me should be able to say, Mia, no, absolutely not. And I know that that no isn't rejection. It's love. It's a genuine care for me and concern for who I am, not what I do. I also think there comes like a spiritual grounding that should come with healthy sisterhood, because it should not constantly pull me away from the Father. Like, the women closest to me should sometimes be able to say, hey, have you prayed about this? Is that actually what God said? Are you sure this is faith and not fear, sis? Because it's sounding a little scary to me. Or, Mia, go sit down somewhere and talk to Jesus. Because that's sisterhood. That's sisterhood to me. But what has gotten in the way of sisterhood, not only for me, but some other people that I spoke to, is there's another dynamic in our lives that sometimes we don't really process. Sometimes our experiences with our biological siblings or women in our family shape how we experience women everywhere else. And if your natural sibling relationship has been difficult, you can't allow those experiences to convince you that all sisterhood is unsafe. Your history with one woman doesn't get to define womanhood. But also the opposite is true too. If you've been blessed with a beautiful relationship with your biological, natural sisters, cousins, mothers, aunties, grandmoms, or other women in your family, don't hoard what that relationship has taught you. Bring those lessons into relationships with women outside your bloodline, because sisterhood is bigger than biology. Sometimes God gives you family through blood, and sometimes God lets relationships become family. I love the women and their families that are in my friend group like they are mine. Their kids and husbands can count on me and my husband and our family as if we were their own, and vice versa. I think that's why I really love the story of Ruth and Naomi, because that story doesn't begin with abundance. It begins with loss. right? Naomi lost her husband and her sons. Ruth lost her husband and her in-laws, and the future that they expected kind of dwindled away. It's like vapor, right? And yet in the middle of grief, Ruth makes this extraordinary declaration that where you go, I will go. Think about what happens when you're in grief. They are both entering a future that neither of them originally planned for, and they are in the rebuilding stage. They're creating life after loss, and they are deciding to do it together. Naomi has wisdom that Ruth doesn't have, and Ruth has this strength and willingness that Naomi needs in this season. Neither woman possesses everything required for the next chapter, but together they have this relational resource trade-off that neither has to possess alone. And Naomi can see things Ruth can't, right? Ruth is willing to move where Naomi may no longer have the strength to move herself. And so eventually this story becomes connected to Boaz, which he's a small fish in this pond about, in this topic, but in any time that I talk about Ruth and Naomi, I just like throw that out there. Because really the story is like redemption, right? Like all of this loss eventually leads to Jesse, David, and the lineage of Christ. And that's extraordinary. Their relationship wasn't comforting. It wasn't simply about comfort. It becomes consequential. That's what I want us to understand about healthy sisterhood. That sometimes the women God puts beside you aren't merely there to just make this season easy. They may carry wisdom and a perspective and the courage and the correction and even the experience that becomes significant to what you're building. And you may carry something equally important for her. But here's what I want to challenge the women who say, but I don't have that this week. Okay. Then perhaps that's part of what you're supposed to create. Because I think we think create season means create the business, create the ministry, create the platform, write the book, create the wealth and do all these things. But maybe one of your assignments in this season is create the relational infrastructure that's necessary for your next season. Build the community, cultivate the friendships, learn vulnerability, and practice like reciprocity. Learn how to ask for help and become trustworthy so then you can learn how to trust others and receive their love and stay where relationships that sometimes get broken and require repair don't cause you to run away. You stay there and you create a resistance, a resilience there. Not, I don't want you to get abused, right? Like, you should be able to discern when something is like, no, this ain't for me. We got to go. Right. Okay. Let me also introduce my completely unofficial biblical question here, because every time I read Genesis 16, part of me wonders, where was Sarah's friends? Where was your girlfriends at, sis? Because Sarah essentially says, God promised us a child. It hasn't happened yet. I have an idea. Why don't you sleep with Hagar and we'll build a family this way? Girl, this gives me goosebumps every time I think about it. And Abram basically says, okay. And I'm reading this like, man, girl, where are your friends at? Did we run this by anybody? Did we get in the group chat? Like, yo, I got an idea. Because I just wonder what happens if Sarah has one spiritually grounded sister who says, okay, I know you're disappointed. I know you're tired of waiting. I know God made this promise to you, sis. And right now your circumstances look very different. Like completely opposite of the promise. But maybe, just hear me out here, sis, Sarah. Just hear me out. Giving your husband to another woman is not the best idea right now, ever in life. Because Sarah was trying to create. She was trying to produce what God had promised. And technically she did create something, right? Ishmael was born. Something was produced. But creation and obedience are not synonymous. Just because you can produce something doesn't mean you were supposed to produce it that way. And sometimes one of the greatest protections in a create season is having women around you who can distinguish between that's a bold idea, that is a roaring lion idea, and girl, or like the opposite, girl, absolutely not. Sit down. What? We want to do what? With who? To do what? No, girl, that's a ministry. That preaches. That's ministry. No, absolutely not. Builders can become so dangerous when nobody has permission to question them, especially when we're tired and disappointed and been waiting and there's pressure on us to make something happen. Isolation makes your own voice very loud and very bold in things that are like moron-ish, very foolish. Healthy sisterhood introduces like a perspective. I don't think we give way to it enough. Like there are times where I don't agree with my friends. I don't agree with the women in my life who bring me healthy sisterhood. That's okay, because the point was for them to introduce a different perspective, an alternative perspective from mine. Sometimes I need somebody who isn't emotionally attached to the outcome to help me see something clearer. I need somebody who remembers what God said when my disappointment is trying to rewrite the narrative. Sometimes I need my friends who know me well enough to recognize, like, that's not faith, Mia, that's fear. And sometimes I don't need their advice at all. I just need like dinner, art, to laugh, or a birthday weekend. I need to sit somewhere with women I love and remember that I am a person before I am a producer. And that's why I call sisterhood a cheat code. So we're in this create season. And I really want you to audit your relational infrastructure. How many friends do you have? Is not the question. Who can I laugh with this season? Who can I grieve with? Who can correct me without me becoming irritated? Can I be corrected without becoming irritated? Who can I call before I make this Genesis 16 decision and essentially create something that I may regret in the end? God honors your ability to create, but I also want you to recognize, like, be diligent in creating only what He has asked you to create, because we're out here creating all types of things. Look at the world. We're out here creating all types of things with our mouths, with our hands, with our thoughts, with our lips. And you need someone who reminds you of who you are and draws you closer to God and celebrates you without competing for you, and reminds you of why you're doing these things so that you don't start creating something that's a mess, that doesn't align to actually who you are. And this can't only be about receiving. Ask yourself, whose sister am I? Who are you allowing to call you? Who is getting your encouragement? Who's receiving your wisdom? Because if you're hoarding all of that just for your projects, shame on you. Who knows that if life falls apart, you're one of the women that they can reach out to for help, for comfort, for care? Because that's sisterhood. It's not you just getting something, it's you being able to give. And I get it. Sometimes people are takers, but you set the tone for that. This weekend really reminded me that I don't just want to build beautiful things. I want to build a beautiful life. And that's not automatically the same thing. I don't want to become so consumed with creating that I neglect the relationships that allow me to remain whole while I create, that remind me that there's joy and laughter and wisdom and correction and love in the women around me. I want women who pray for me behind my back. I want women who tell me the truth in my face. I want women who I can celebrate and celebrate me, and that we can sit in grief together and not bond off of the bleeding, but really bond off of like, okay, how are we going to get through this? How are we going to overcome? We're going to sit in this little hole for a second, but then we need to climb out, sis. We got to get out. How are we making our way out? So the cheat code isn't find better friends. It's become a better sister. It's recognize your sisters. It's cultivate your sisterhood and build a life where sisterhood has somewhere to live. Because sometimes you don't have the thing because you haven't recognized it, or you haven't asked for it, or you haven't had the courage to pursue it, or you just haven't developed the capacity to sustain it. And the thing is, God is inviting you to create the community that you've been praying to find. But you can't just create the vision around that. You need to create the infrastructure that can hold the woman carrying it. And that comes with sisterhood. Make sure somewhere in that infrastructure there are sisters. This week, I want to challenge you a little bit. I put some reflection listener questions in the show notes. So go there when you have a moment and just like read through them. And if you don't have an answer to some of them, especially this last one I'm going to put in there, maybe you just discovered something else that you need to create in this season. Sis, I want you to build the business and build the ministry and build the dream. Build whatever God has put in your hands. But I don't want you to forget to build the table where your sisters can sit with you when you're done, or even while you're doing it. That's it. I'll see you next week. If today's conversation resonated with you, share it with a sister who may be questioning whether to continue, pause, release, or return to the why. Follow the podcast and leave a review. And if you want to share your story and help shape our sisterhood, visit the Wellness Architect podcast and click share your testimony. I would be honored to hold space for your voice. Thank you for coming for the stories and strategies and staying for the sisterhood. Until next time, sis, be well.